It's another beautiful Sunday afternoon. This is Rubbin Minds. Welcome. My name is Ebuka Biuchendu. Happy Easter to everyone watching. Hope you're celebrating in some way. I know it's very tough times across the country. Almost impossible to buy anything now or even have a proper celebration. What we thought were basic things like rice almost seem like luxuries these days. So whatever way you can, I hope you're able to just be around family and try to take a breather from all the issues that are being thrown at us across the country. Yes, politics is still in the air. There's a lot more declarations that's happened in the past week. Looks like some more will be coming in the next week. There's a joke about us probably having more candidates than voters by the time the primaries are around the corner. But hey, that's what democracy is all about. So we're looking forward to all of that as they come. But this show today, we're going to be starting off with something that caught the attention of the entire country and even the continent to an extent, you know. Domestic violence has been a front burner topic for quite a while now, but we did hear news about the death of a gospel singer who was very loved by a lot of people. But the stories that have come out after her passing away has gripped the nation's attention, and we're going to be talking about domestic violence and what we just can do in situations where we find ourselves. I have here with me Betty Abba, who's the founder, executive director, See Hope Nigeria, and a women and children's rights advocate. Thanks for being here today. And of course, Titilayo Vaivo Adeni, executive secretary of the Lagos State Domestic and Sexual Violence Agency. Thanks for coming. So, of course, our condolences to Osinachi's family. Everybody knows what happened there, and we've seen so many write-ups and narratives. Even her family have spoken up. But I think the one narrative that everybody is trying to understand, which keeps coming up, is why is it so hard to leave, and when is it time to leave? It seems like that's what people have been trying to understand. For someone who's so successful in her career, why domestically was it hard for her to take that step?
Oh, thank you so much. I would say that it's also very well known, the stigma that's attached to divorce, separation, and people taking a walk out of marriage. And for someone like her, who was in a very sensitive position, so to say, because Nigeria is an extremely religious country, and she was a fantastic singer, she was well known. So I guess that she was not able to reconcile the fact of her being a divorced person and being a Christian musician. There was also the prospect, the possibility that she was going to lose many of her clients, so to say, because if she were known to be a divorcee, many people that invite her for conferences would not have done that, would not go ahead to continue inviting her. So I guess that must have been one of the reasons, and is the reason why so many thousands, if not millions of people are still in hellish marriages and relationships, because they're very conscious of societal stigma, religious sentiment. I guess that was what happened. And also, why people stay, apart from the religious sentiment, is insecurity. People are so afraid of the next step. If I leave, how are my children going to fare? How am I going to cope? Because, of course, we always say that poverty wears the face of a woman. Majority of the people that are impoverished in the country are women. Majority of the people suffering domestic violence are women. So how do they take the next step? What is the mechanism, the supportive mechanism on ground to support women that are walking away? I run a shelter, for instance, and right now, as we're discussing just before the program started, we are filled to brim because people are a few people, so to say, comparatively, are walking out of violent relationships and then walking into shelters. But how many shelters do we have in Nigeria? In Canada, we have over 400 shelters. Canada with 37 million people. Nigeria, over 200 million. We don't have up to 20 functional shelters in Nigeria. Majority of them are in Lagos, and majority are filled as we speak, even the Lagos State Government Agency is trying their best. But the supportive mechanism, the support system is actually not there.
Let me come to you now, Cecilia, because you work with an agency of government that's trying to do some good work in this space. And from what she says, it's also something that's bugged me a lot, because a lot of people have talked about society, stigma, religion. There are so many layers to why she probably couldn't leave and why most people don't. So that support system seems to be the recurring conversation. Is it a societal support? Is it government? Is it policy? What is it that we should be doing?
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think it's everything. It's the society, it's government, it's policy, it's access to justice. Society, the family. So a daughter tells her mom that she's experiencing violence. What's the response of the mother? Is it stay there, marriage should be endured? You don't have a room in your father's house. What is your response? And then government, of course. Government is there to protect lives and property. Ensure that when a person is bold and courageous enough to speak up and speak out, there is a support system to help cushion the effect of the violence. So obviously, government has a very, very huge role to play in ensuring that survivors are able to speak out and then access justice. Yeah. And I think it's important that people are aware of support services that exist. A lot is going on. A lot of empowerment programs, for instance. In Lagos, we just recently launched the Domestic and Sexual Violence Trust Fund, where survivors can access grants. Perhaps they want to secure accommodation, because accommodation, as Mrs. Abba said, is very important. Somebody feels their life is threatened. Where do they go to? In the absence of us restraining the alleged abuser from coming to the house, alternative accommodation has to be provided. So that grant is supposed to provide for accommodation. We also have instances where, because of the stigma associated with the crime, we need to relocate families out, especially when it comes to sexual violence, child sexual abuse. That also can be catered for. Many people suffer serious medical conditions as a result of the violence. We had a lady where she had lost the ability to use her left leg because of the violence. Of course, she has to receive medical attention. So, they can access medical support as well. So there are a lot of support services that exist. Are they enough? Definitely not. But they are there. Yeah. And it's just I think on part of government to continue to create awareness about these support services available and encourage people that when they speak, there are support services that they can take advantage of.
And it's the how that I want to get into now, because I was looking at statistics and some data said something about just about 18.6% of people report violence, I think, and that's for the Southwest. Okay. And that has the highest amongst the 6 geopolitical zones. So it makes you wonder what else is even happening outside the Southwest, So it's good enough that, when you speak up, you have places to go to. But what does government do, or what does your agency do, if anything, to even help with the speaking up itself before you even have to look for help, if you know what I mean?
Yes, definitely. We believe enlightenment is key. A lot of people are experiencing violence. They don't even know they're experiencing violence because of the vicious cycle of abuse. And then because of our socialization, patriarchy, we're in a community where it's almost like women have been suppressed. And so we're just emerging, we're speaking about these issues. So it's going to take time for us to break this culture of silence. So what we started doing this year was to go to, we have a program called It's On Us, where we're going to all the local governments. We've been to 5 now. We have town hall meetings with community leaders, CDC, CDA chairmen, the youth, where we engage them about these issues. These are crimes against the state, punishable by 7, 14 years, whatever the crime is, and then encourage them to see themselves as mandated reporters, bystanders. You know that your neighbor is experiencing violence. Do you just turn a blind eye and say it doesn't concern me? It's on us. It concerns each and every one of us. And then encourage people to take advantage of, for instance, telephone numbers. We have a toll-free line, 24/7, that people can, reach out and speak. So yes, we are doing a lot of advocacy, especially in the community, in the grassroots areas.
We have a guest I'll come to you. We have a guest who's joining us online, but I want to just segue from that very quickly, because one thing that came up a lot as well was when the pastor of the church spoke up and talked about him not knowing, but apparently the kids knew, they never told him, even some people in his choir knew. So it's also brought up a conversation of when is it okay to tell You know, because they all said they didn't want to because she told them not to, because she didn't want to lose her marriage. What sort of duty do we hold? At what point do we need to step in for somebody else? And how do you do that the right way?
In a way, to respond to that, just to derive from what Titular said about sensitization, people have to even be sensitized to be able to speak up as soon as possible, And then we also have to create the enabling environment. When the pastor came out after 5 days, in the case of Osinachi's case, and after all the lashings and all of that, to say they were not aware. The question I asked was that, did you provide the enabling environment for her to speak up? Because in the case of comfortable enough, the space, the safety, for a safe space, so to her, within the religious environment, within the church, for her to be able to speak up. Obviously not. And in the case of Osinachi again, she spoke to almost everyone around except her own church people. So why was that? It wasn't as if she wasn't speaking. The intensity of her song was a way of her crying out for help. If you actually listen to her very well, there was a certain intensity about the song. So, but it's obvious that she wasn't speaking to the right person. Some person said she was invited to their programs and then she would break down and cry and tell them what was happening. So it's just for us to provide the right space, the right environment for people to speak up. And then for people suffering domestic violence themselves to take their own lives in their hands and speak up. Yeah. Even if the environment is not there, like Titi Lola said, there are government agencies, there are NGOs, the police is there. Just walk up and speak up, because at the end of the day, it's your life.
Eventually.
It's your life.
Ultimately.
Yes.
We'll come back to you, but we'll have a guest joining us via Titi Shonuga, who's an artist and a poet. Thanks a lot for joining us, Titi. I know you do a lot of advocacy with your poems and with your art and all of that. And, you know, I believe that there's never enough ways, you know, where we can speak up with this. What drives that for you? Why is that a focal point for you?
I think the role of art is to reflect the times, right? It's not to moralize or tell people what to do, but it really is to reflect the times that we live in, reflect our experiences. And for me, in particular, the experiences of women are central and important and relevant. And so I try to highlight that in the work that I do, so that for people who aren't necessarily listening to the news or in touch with what is happening in real time, they can use art as a medium to understand what women are experiencing.
So I don't know, do you feel that the message gets passed across? Because some people might feel like, okay, is art really effective enough? What other ways do you think people can use this message? I mean, because people like the ladies in my studio here are doing the work, you know, but getting the word out there, are there other mediums? Because, I mean, someone like me, for example, what do I need to do?
Yeah, I think, you know, there's a quote that I love where it says something like, there must be room amongst who we can sit down and weep and still be counted as warriors. And so when a cause is as big as this, everybody needs to attack it from the place that they are in. So there are people on the ground who are doing the work at the level of advocacy and providing safe spaces for women to escape to when they need to. There are artists who are creating arts that speaks about all sorts of things, but specifically about the experiences of women. But there are also everyday people who have women in their lives, who have daughters, who have friends, who can step in their own small ways, who, when a woman comes to you and says, you know, I'm experiencing something, it's a little off, maybe we haven't yet gotten to the point where it's physically violent, but confides in you, to probe a little deeper at the point where it's still, you know, something verbal, because the dial gets turned on slowly. So I'd say wherever you are, in whatever avenues you occupy, in your workplace, in your homes, that's the place to be advocating from. And that too is a valuable part of the work that everybody is trying to do.
All right. We also have Chi-Girl joining us online there. Just to bring her in very quickly, because I know you're part of a musical that's going on now at the other country. Yes. Explain to us what this play is doing and why it's important to this conversation about domestic violence.
I think one of the... Can you hear me? First of all,
yes, we can hear you. Go on. Yes.
Okay, great. I think one of the ideas of another country and just it being such a strong teacher is that these things are happening every day. Not everybody's on social media, but everybody kind of you either know somebody's happened to or it's happened to you. So it's either indirectly or directly that it's affecting all of us. And I think, especially with all of the situations with domestic violence, it needs to be told. And I think this is one of the best ways to make it sort of settle in easier, right? Than maybe giving a talk or watching something graphic. You can just hear a story that is either yours or somebody that you know. And I think it just makes it easier to swallow, but also gets the idea across at the end of the day, which is the objective.
Very well said. I'll come back to you, but let me just come back right now to the studio very quickly to both of you, as quickly as you can. How are we talking to the perpetrators of this? I mean, I say perpetrators are not men because it goes both ways. There are a lot of men who are also victims who even more often than not don't speak up for shame. What sort of message do you give to perpetrators, if any? And how do we reach them?
Yes, through all kinds of platforms as much as possible, on social media, through platforms like this. And the message is, if there are irreconcilable differences, especially if the relationship is life-threatening, take a walk. And like you say, I think for men, most times they don't speak up because of stigma. They have this macho mentality. They don't want to be seen as weaklings, so they keep quiet. I lost my nephew 3 years ago here in Lagos. He was stabbed to death by his wife. And we never got to know that he was suffering violence for at least 4 years. The entire street was very much aware of it, except the family. He hid it from us, and we just got a call that he's been stabbed to by the wife. So that was an accumulation of several years of domestic violence. So men actually suffer domestic violence, and for them, sometimes it's actually hard because they don't speak up. They try to cover up. So we encourage men, women, and every other person suffering violence, speak up. If the situation can be resolved, if it's beyond resolution, just move on with your life, because you actually had a life before you entered the marriage, and after the marriage, you will continue to have your life. The people you are conscious of that maybe they're going to stigmatize you, those people, when you die, they will not even have the time to attend your funeral. Life will always go on. Yeah. So just take a move and continue living. What is eminent, what is the priority above all is your life.
All right.
Yeah.
Chigirl, if you're still there with us, very quickly, I know a lot of the message from your play is very woman-centric, but like we said here, perpetrators are also a big part of this conversation. What sort of feedback do you get from people who've seen the play and, lessons learned?
We've talked to a lot of people who have posted about it, have been here, even the men folk, because some people might assume that this is about women and it happening to just women. It doesn't happen to just women. It probably, I guess I can say, predominantly women are the ones on the other end of abuse. But we talk to men who have sat in the audience, who have children, who are also learning things from the play, because we come to you with the message, but we're bringing it with fun, with music, with a little lighter delivery system than opposed to screaming and yelling or making it hard to take in. The men folk have been really, really appreciative of another country. They're like, we wish we had known earlier, we could see it again. People have come and seen it more than once, more than twice, which is so encouraging to hear. So that's kind of like sort of the kind of reception we've been getting, which has really been encouraging. So we're really grateful for that. We're really grateful.
Thank you very much, Chioma Chigolo-Merua. Thank you very much, Titi Shonuga, Titilayo Vaivo Adeni, and Betty Abba. I mean, this conversation, like I said at the start, 20 minutes is never enough for it, but we just have to keep talking about this. Hopefully we can have you guys back and keep fighting the fight.
Thank you very much.
We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back. Please don't go away.